You, sir?
Good morning, Chief. How are you?
I'm doing. I hope you are too.
Yes, I am.
No, great, great. First, educate us on this. This whole issue of asset declaration. What is it about? What is it intended to achieve? And does this current framework help us to achieve this? I know this; those are three very loaded questions. But anyway, if you forget any of them, I'll come in and remind you. But it's some education on asset declaration.
Thank you very much. I'll try and unpack them. First and foremost, the public sector or the public sector, they collect public funds. They collect money from you and I in the form of taxes. They also collect money in terms of services that they render, which they normally refer to as internally generated funds. They also borrow money in the name of you and I, and they receive gifts from others in the name of you and I. All these monies are supposed to be used for the benefit of the people. That is why you have public financial management system. You must prepare a budget, get approval, and even when the budget is approved, the disbursement goes through Ministry of Finance to Accountant General. And if you are going to procure, you must use procurement law, etc. But all this notwithstanding, we are aware that public servants or people will find way of still diverting public funds. And the key beneficiaries or suspects in this equation are the people holding the public office, especially at the senior level. So Article 286 of the Constitution provides that the public office holders, both politicians and public servants, at a certain level must declare their assets and liabilities before taking office. And after every 4 years, they should repeat the declaration. And at the date of going home, they must also declare their assets and liabilities. This is supposed to complement the financial management arrangement. The truth of the matter is that if you cannot enjoy the fruits of stealing or process of corruption, as we call it, then there will be no incentive or motivation for corrupting your office. So that is the assumption. In Ghana, yes, we have assets and liabilities declaration system. Actually, a better one was in place before the 1992 Constitution. If you see the Public Office and Political Parties Act, I think 1992, it has a lot of provisions which have been taken away currently by the Constitution and at 550, which is Public Office Holders Act 1998. What has been taken away, which has made.
Well, we'll get Mr. Daniel Yao Domelevo back on the line. Very important education on where we are coming from. He says there was even a better act in place before the new one was passed. That what the predecessor act was better. And he was explaining to us why the act that was in place before 1992 is better or was better than what we have currently. What are the differences? We'll get Mr. Daniel Domelevo back on the line. He's a former Auditor General. He was giving us some education. Thank you. Sorry we lost you there. You were telling us why you think that the act that was in place before 1992 was better than what we have currently and what they took out that made it better.
Great. So if you peruse the act which was in place up to 1992, that act provides that when you declare your assets and liabilities to the Auditor General, the Auditor General has 2 weeks to publish it for all Ghanaians to see. The idea is for you to make known what you have before assuming public office. And then 4 years on, declare again what you have. Or when you are leaving office, you declare what you have so that we can look at what came in during the time of office and question you as to how you made it. Because as a public servant, your salary is known. Everybody knows a public servant is not that well paid worker. So it helps to curb corruption because light will be thrown on any illicit acquisition that you made during the term of office. Again, that law provided punishment for non-compliance. If you don't comply with the declaration, it provided some sanctions that must apply to you. None of this you can find in the Constitution, that is Article 286, or in Act 550, which is supposed to flesh out the details of asset declaration. Hence, today, the declaration is defective to the extent that all that they declare is to put what they have or they owe, that is assets and liabilities, on paper and give that to the Auditor General. I don't mean people put it on their own papers. There is a form that they fill to declare their assets and liabilities. But the verification which the Auditor General's office does not include the physical verification of the asset being declared. Neither does it even include title documents. Because if you say you own a house, at least there must be a land title. If you say you own a car, there must be a document which shows that it is your vehicle. If you say you are owing 20 billion or 10 billion or 5 million from a bank, there's a loan agreement. Those verifications are not done. So it can create room for people to do or declare anything at all. So now what we are calling for is to amend the legal framework to ensure that now there will be room for verification. Auditor General will go on the ground to verify what you have declared and tell you whether you have declared appropriately or not. There should also be room for publication of what has been declared, because it is the people who can help police the public officers. They know the houses, the properties, and the liabilities of the public officers. The Auditor General is not God, and he or she cannot know this. It's only what you bring to him or her that he can actually accept. So if that is declared or published, it will help in policing the public office holders. Again, currently there are no consequences, which I differ to some extent though, because my argument has always been, if the Constitution says you must acquire O-level before you can go to university, and you are in the university with that O-level, you are there unlawfully, you must be sacked. So if the Constitution says declare your assets before going into the office or before taking the office, and 2 months, 1 year into acquiring or taking that office, you have not declared your assets and liabilities, my considered opinion is that you are acquiring that position or occupying that position unconstitutionally. Therefore, you must be removed. But Church has been of a contrary opinion over this period. So we think this must be done. But quickly, let me add that if we add the sanction regime, we add the verification, we add the publication, we've got some additions to our law, it will still not be effective. One thing we have to do is to make sure that we introduce what we call lifestyle audit for Ghanaians. Because once the asset declaration becomes very effective, public office holders will hide their assets in the name of their friends and family. So he buys a storey building or a big facility and register it in the name of his friend or his son who has never worked. So we need a law which allows authorized bodies to do what we call lifestyle audit. If it is reported that Yao Domelevo owns a mansion and Daniel has all these years been Auditor General and his salary cannot even take care of him, but he owns this mansion, then we need a law which will compel Daniel to explain how he got those resources or the properties, which requires the reversal of the burden of proof, in which it is no more the prosecutor or the government who will have to prove that you stole the money before building that house. But if we can establish that that house can never be built by somebody who is on your income, then the burden shifts to you to tell us that, oh, I'm a good lotto seeker. I picked lotto and won this amount, which is far more than the value I've even put over there. So I still even have a balance. Or I inherited my father, my brother, or whatever, and he was a very rich person, and that is where I got the money from. So if we don't add lifestyle audit and illicit acquisition of wealth, the need to prove that, if we don't add it to our legal framework, I think we may not go very far. Thank you.
Very interesting. So you're saying that under the current law, personally, I don't own a car. I don't own a house. If they make me a public officer today, I can just put in there 2 houses and 2 cars, knowing that that's my target. And nobody will check whether or not I truly have those things.
Exactly. In fact, honestly, when I became Auditor General, that was always my problem. I was always like, what do you mean by you have declared your assets and liabilities to me by filling a paper, a form of, or filling a form? I must see what you are declaring to me, and at least something to show that you own those things. So I went out to have a discussion with my legal team. I did a lot of consultation. In fact, I also have some friends in the judiciary. Fortunately, I had several friends who were even Supreme Court judges. So I consulted them. I consulted the parliament, and not officially, informally, my friends who were there. And I realized I was not going to win anywhere. Because, mind you, when it becomes critical to go to court, and even the judiciary was not in support. Because I was saying to them that what I want to write and inform all public servants is that with immediate effect, if you declare that you have an asset, you must provide evidence that you have that asset. I want to see the land title. I want to see the ownership of the car. Then I was told that procedures are also part of law. All these years since 1992, this is how it has been declared. So you must have a very good reason to depart from it. And people may challenge you in court. And the final decision is not yours. It is that of the court. I realize that I'll lose the case. Because at times, even the one who is going to defend me in the court, if he's a lawyer in the public sector, will also be subject to the same declaration. The judge will be subjected to the same declaration. I say, this will not work. That's why I have mounted this pressure that we should change the law. If the law is categorical to say that, look, if you declare your assets and liabilities, the Auditor General has the right to verify. I think we will have made a good step. Then beyond that, if the law says it can be published, then it is fantastic. Then if the law says if you don't declare by this date, you lose your job, I think that will be very, very, very good. So that is the reason why I personally have been very passionate about this declaration of assets and liabilities. And I think if it is done and done well, together with the other legislations I've talked about, we will be able to protect the public better.
Within the context of what assets and liabilities are, exactly what are you supposed to declare? That I have 1 laptop, I have 1 phone, or what do you declare?
Yes, the assets to be declared are listed in the law at 550. Already list all the assets that you are supposed to declare. I don't remember all of them at the top of my head. If you have the form, people say that the form is too detailed. It is not the Auditor General who detailed the form. That detail is in at 550. The law prescribes all the things you are supposed to declare and the value at which, if you hit, you must declare.
I see. This is now President John Mahama says, typically I've done this in private, just take the form, fill it, and submit it to the Auditor General in private. But for the first time, I want to do it publicly to send a clear message to those who work under me that everybody needs to declare their assets, and you need to do that by 31st March. And if you don't, you should consider yourself out of my government. Good. Is that a good move?
Fantastic move. In fact, it is the best tone from the top. I'm very happy that he didn't hide and just went and declared. He declared in front of the camera. You saw him going through the form with the Auditor General and etc., signing some places and etc., just to let people know that he has done it. The only thing which he didn't do is giving the Auditor General the right to go and verify those assets. I don't know whether that was done, but it is usually not done, which I'm calling for to be done now. My problem is that the president should have, however, done this declaration before he took office, because that is what the Constitution says. Whereas I agree that at 550 allows a time extension of 6 months from the day you came into office or you resigned. This provision in at 550 is in my considered opinion contradicts the Constitution, and I have a copy of a letter which was authored by the then Attorney General, Honorable Gloria Akufu, which accepted the position of Occupy Ghana. Occupy Ghana was challenging the government to say that at 550, which allows public office holders up to 6 months to declare their assets and liabilities, was in contravention or contrary to the provisions of the Constitution. And the Attorney General agreed and assured that she was going to take steps for the amendment to be done. Up to today, the amendment has not been done. So I would have wished that the president complied with the Constitution instead of at 550. But be it as it may, better late than never. He has declared and has given his followers a deadline of 31st March to declare. There again, I wish he gave them 1 week or 2 weeks, because you are supposed to do something before you take office. In fact, it will be nicer even after vetting the minister. The president directs them, go and declare your assets and liabilities before I swear you into office. It would have been better. That would have been complying with the Constitution. But now, since 1992 or 1993 today, we have been complying with at 550 and ignored what the Supreme Law of the land says. But if you are confident with Clause 2 of Article 1 of the Constitution, it says the Constitution is the supreme law of Ghana, and any law which contradicts it to the extent of the contradiction is null and void. So I think that we should be aiming at obeying the supreme law of the country than the act. Thank you.
Great. So, having said that, in the spirit of, I guess, oral, which I assume that you have some faith in based on the fact that you agree to participate in the preparatory work, what does he need to do in terms of asset declaration? What can he do to improve the current regime?
In fact, he made very interesting and heartwarming statements, including incorporating the publication of the declaration in the Constitutional Review, which I think is fantastic. However, there is a low-hanging fruit. That low-hanging fruit is what we call the Conduct of Public Office Holders Bill. That bill, I'm told, was put together in 2012 or 2013, thereabout. When I came into office in 2016, I met it. I remember in 2017, the then Attorney General Gloria Akufu wrote to me and asked for my input or comments on the bill. Within a week, we had suggested a lot of changes, including punishment. And the first punishment you can guess is what? Removal from office if you have not declared. Because if you obey the Constitution, then you have no business being in office. So all this went to the Attorney General, and several years down the line, it is still not yet passed. If you remember, last year, the then president, assured Ghanaians that he was not only going to pass the code of conduct for the public office holders, but he was going to give us something which matches international standards. He deceived us and went away without doing anything. So I am very happy that the president wants it to go into the constitutional amendment. But there is a bill lying there. He can ask the Attorney General to bring it up and send it to Parliament for it to be passed, and we shall be fine and good. I don't think we need a constitutional amendment. The Constitution itself is okay. All we need is an act of Parliament to operationalize it. Thank you.
And that bill, did you say is the Code of Conduct of Public Officers?
Yes, Code of Conduct of Public Office Holders.
Okay.
And it includes asset declaration, receiving of gifts, conflict of interest, all those things that Ghanaians have grown to come accept. Bad practices which we have lived with for so long that people think it is okay. All those things have been legislated in that bill.
Well, that's on the matter of asset declaration. But I wanted to take your view on one more thing, because you were Auditor General. There's this whole thing, a circular, there's a directive from the Chief of Staff that all last-minute appointments, especially those made after December 7th, should all be revoked. First, what do you make of that position that he's taken, that the government has taken?
Wow. I have not seen the circular, but I would like to trust that what you said is the truth. So I'm commenting on what you have just told me.
Yes.
Because I have not seen the circular. I must say that people have been asking for my view. I've tried not to talk about it. Because at times we compare apples and bananas, not even apples and oranges. Some ask the question because they say that, Daniel, you yourself, you were appointed after President Mahama, the then President Mahama, had lost election. But they've forgotten that my position is Article 71 office, which was vacant. There was a vacancy. And the Constitution provides under Article 187 plus 1 that there shall be Auditor General. That office cannot be made vacant. So even if it is the last day and the Auditor General is appointed, I think it is in order. The question we have to ask is, these people who were recruited at the last minute, were they vacant? Question number one. Question number two, are they actually having the competence, or it was just a matter of favoring party faithful? I heard allegations, I can't prove it, that even some people who didn't even have experience and new entrants were promoted above those who were there or their seniors at the last minute. So if people were being recruited or appointed just because we have lost election and we want to give position to our people, not because they were vacancies, not because they were competent, then I have no problem at all with terminating those appointments. Because remember, unlike Article 71 office holders, which the Auditor General is, those ones, they serve probation. Auditor General Chief Justice does not serve probation. Once we put the Chief Justice in today, he is, for all intents and purposes, the substantive Chief Justice. Same with the Auditor General. If you want to remove them, you have to go through Article 146, which Nanadu did not do. That's why the Supreme Court says the removal of the Auditor General was unconstitutional. However, with the other employment, the labor laws or the public service regulations require that they serve a probation period, which is usually 6 months. And within probation period, your appointment can be terminated at any time. So if it is terminated during the probation period because they think we don't need your services, then I think it is in order. However, two wrongs to me do not make a good. I think what should have been done is that government should have taken time to review those appointments and see were they based upon merit. Two, was there a vacancy that was being filled, or it was just job for the boys? If that was done before their removal, I will have sent kudos. But if it's just a blanket removal, we are looking at whether there are vacancies, if it is going to affect the economy or etc., then I think it is not right. Sorry for crying aloud. They are Ghanaians. It doesn't matter where they belong to. If they are needed, then their appointment should have been kept. But if they are not needed, they are just job for the boys, there were no vacancies, then kudos to the office of the president.
On that last leg, and I note that, and educate me if I'm wrong, the Transitional Act says the handing over notes should be prepared, I think, 6 months to the elections. That's accurate, right?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So if the handing over notes should be prepared 6 months to the elections, why undertake an action like employment, which will have an impact on the finances of the whichever sector you are handling, after you have already handed over, or maybe formally put in a handing over note to the person who will take over your office?
I don't think the handing over is the 6 months. It is the note. You prepare the handing over, and when the election is finished, there's a transition team which you share the handing over note to the person, and then the person takes over. But you see, public service is a huge institution, and attrition rate is very high. That 6 months you and I we are talking about, thousands of people will have died, resigned, sacked, etc. That's why I was talking about vacancies. If there are vacancies, we cannot say that because we are going into elections. We don't have an accountant, we don't have a cashier, but we have to wait and we do elections. So I don't subscribe to that idea. That's why I am saying that we may have to interrogate the reason for the employment and also the reason for the sacking. If there are vacancies and the people are qualified for it, I don't see why they should be sacked. But if these people were just giving jobs because their party has lost elections, then I think what the presidency did is right.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure talking to Mr. Daniel Yao Domelevo. He's a former Auditor General.